Hi, welcome to my first painting tutorial. In this video I'm painting a sunset in oils. All the materials are listed below. So I'm starting with a mix of lemon yellow and white, and it's on a very thin coat of walnut oil which helps the paint flow on the paper. If you're painting along with this video you can use any paint you like. I'd recommend a thick paint like oil, acrylic, gouache, or it could be poster paint. It doesn't matter, probably not suitable for watercolour this time. Here I'm adding some bright orange, which is a mix of the cadmium red and lemon yellow, and it's going to blend in nicely with the lemon yellow underneath, just to tone it down a bit because I think the colour is a little bit too intense at the moment. So I'm just brushing on both sides of the sun in the middle, and I'm just going to try and blend it in as I go. I'd suggest that you don't paint on a carpet, just in case you spill the paint, especially if you use oil or acrylic. I take my picture to this card to protect the tablecloth, laugh out loud, but it doesn't matter because it is especially for painting. And you might like these nice dark colours, so it's up to you how much paint you put on and what quantities you use. Now I'm adding some darker colours. As you can see, I don't have the hands of a surgeon there. A little bit of a swerve going on. Or as Bob Ross would say, a happy little accident. You can't really do that if you're a surgeon. And I haven't followed the rule of thirds in this picture. I think you just go with what you like. I'm now adding some luscious pink with my surgeon's hands. It's a mix of crimson and white, and I've got some cadmium red and white. At the top and the bottom of the painting I'm using crimson, and then I'm blending all these colours together to smooth out the harsh lines and to stop any very distinct separation between the colours. So there's yellow in the middle, then orange, white and orange, pinks and crimson. I'm doing some downward strokes and across, so all the harsh lines that you see going across the paper, they'll be smoothed out. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the painting's been jumping around a little bit and I've had to hold it down. It seems to have a bit more bounce in it than Tigger. A few more downward strokes to blend the colours around the sun. I'm adding a bit more orange and I'm blending it with the pink and the crimson above. I think it was a bit too yellow before. You can see now that it's quite smooth around the sun and also at the top and the bottom of the painting. I've had to swap brushes because the paint gets a bit thick and a bit cloggy. I don't know if that's a proper word. So I'm using a softer brush, and when it gets too much paint on it, sometimes the bristles will splay. So I try and use a brush as flat as I can so that it's almost touching the paper horizontally. If you lay the brush as flat as you can so it's almost parallel to the paper, you still use the tip of the brush and a little bit more of the bristles, and you can move it gently across the paper without making any harsh strokes. I'm starting with the foreground using a mix of the blues. Often people start with the background and work forwards, so I'm doing it a bit topsy-turvy. I know you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, what's she doing? Sometimes you just have to make a decision and go with it like the hungry caterpillar. When you've got this far and you've put such a dark colour on a light background, it's very hard to rectify it if you think it's wrong. So you can either go with it or you can stop and start again. And here I'm just going to go with it. When you want a very dark colour and you're not using black, you can mix ultramarine and crimson together and that makes a very dark tone. Or you can mix all the primaries and just use a bit more of the blue and the darker red. Using more yellow will make it a lighter colour and it could tend towards green, or you might get a brown colour. I'm now using a palette knife to add some colour to the foreground. I've got some yellow ochre and I've got some orange, and I'm just going to blend it in with the colour beneath. Mixing the orange and the yellow and picking up the blue underneath will make a greeny shade. One of my favourite old brushes for dabbing. It's a nice soft nylon brush. I'm just making some bushes in the foreground. The dabbing beneath the land is a reflection and marking where it's going to be. This is an old toothbrush. I shouldn't say that. It's a toothbrush. That sounds better. It's a toothbrush. I'm using it to create grasses in the foreground. A little in the background, but you're not going to see so many grasses so far away. With the grasses, I want to make sure that they're not all facing the same way, so I use a toothbrush in different directions and also the little paintbrush. And I want to make sure that the land behind doesn't appear as a straight line behind the grass, because it wouldn't look natural. I'm going to make a little bush. The picture's starting to look a lot better now that I've blended the colours. And when the tape's removed from around the edges, that should look quite neat too. I've made some little hawthorne bushes, and so I've made a mix of lemon yellow and cyan and a little bit of the yellow ochre. I'm using the paintbrush here to add a few extra bushes. I was told in an art class many years ago that if you're doing a landscape painting, the colours in the distance tend towards the far end of the spectrum, so more violet or blue, and those in the foreground are warmer tones. Still, I like a bit of yellow ochre, and so I'm adding some to these bushes in the distance. Also, the sun is still going to catch them at this time of day. So, let's talk about brush cleaning. How do I do it? There's so many different options. I try to be as chemical free as I can. One, because I don't like the smell of them. Two, because I know it's polluting the environment. So I use some vegetable soap, especially for brush cleaning. I've never found a clean way to clean brushes. Some people do. There's also something called Bristle Magic, and I'm not getting paid to advertise this, and that's biodegradable. And I forgot to mention, you can also use a vegetable soap to clean your hands. just like Bob Ross, I'm going to make a nice little tree, and I'm going to repeat other colours used in this painting. So for the shading, I'm using the blues and a bit of crimson. The tree needs a bit of shading, so I've got a greeny blue mix, the cyan, maybe a bit of ultramarine and the lemon yellow, and I've also got a bit of white in there too. And then I'm also picking up on some of the colour used in the sky, so I'm going to add some of the crimson as well. And I've got the edge of the tree here catching the sun, so I'm going to use my favourite yellow ochre. Favourite small soft brush again. I'm smoothing out some of the reflections in the water. I've applied some French ultramarine and cyan to create, and a bit of crimson to create darker shadow. For the reflection in the water, I'm using a palette knife, and I'm using some white mixed with some yellow, the lemon yellow this time, and that's just to make it a little less bright. And I'm going to try and put some horizontal lines, although I have got a bit of a swerve sometimes, it makes it more natural. And you can see the edge of the riverbank. Another favourite brush, it's a soft nylon brush, it's quite old, it's been used quite a lot. And it's very good for this soft reflection effect. Just touching the grasses slightly. I'm adding a little bit more in the background. Instead of doing lots of white lines with extra paint, I'm actually scraping some off using a palette knife, and it's just taking those top layers to reveal the lighter colours underneath. Now a small brush for the branches of the tree, and it's a kind of dark brown colour, so that's a mix of blue, red and yellow, and sometimes you might need to play around with the colour to get more of a brown. I want to soften some of the riverbank behind the grasses because I don't want it to look like a square or a line behind the grasses, so I'm just using the brush and the paintbrush to soften these. A few dabs here and there. And I'm just tweaking the painting, making sure there aren't any square patches or bits that look a bit odd. And I think I'm almost done. If you can't think what to do next and you've run out of ideas, or if it feels complete, it's time to stop. Thank you for joining me and watching this video, and please visit next time. Bye!